Welcome to New Life Live, the premier place to receive free advice from Christian psychologists and counselors for the mental, emotional, relational, and spiritual challenges you face. Since 1988, we've offered compassionate responses that combine God's truth with proven psychological principles to guide you toward healing. Our phone lines are open. Call us now at 1-800-229-3000.
Christmas Day is here. I'm Brian Perez, wishing you happiness and cheer, along with licensed marriage and family therapist, author Marc Cameron, and licensed marriage and family therapist Chris Williams. Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas.
I'm going to say what we say in England. Happy Christmas.
Yes,
Happy Christmas.
Happy
yes.
Christmas. I love it.
Happy Christmas and Merry New Year.
Yes.
Is that what you guys say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, you know, it's been a great year of ministry at New Life, hasn't it?
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I brought some Christmas cookies for us to share. We probably shouldn't eat in the studio here because then we'll get crumbs all over the place. Now, unless,
trouble.
Chris, you're about to confess that you don't like Christmas cookies.
Oh,
then.
no.
Oh, good.
It's the opposite. I'm going to confess I eat way too many.
Probably going to eat the whole 10.
Yes.
Yes. So what's on your mind, Chris?
Okay, so the confession today it's kind of strange, especially Christmas, but there is a tie-in. I'm not a good crier. And what I mean by that is that I don't access my tears and my grief or my sadness or sometimes tears of joys as readily. I'm one of those guys that just kind of struggles crying, you know? And I really do believe it's a liability. I don't believe in this sort of like, never show your emotions and never, never show them that you're sad or crying. I know that is unhealthy. And I really do believe, based on my own history, that there's some unhealth in the midst of all of that. But lo and behold, every Christmas Eve service, I get the gift of crying. I get the gift of tears. It sounds weird, but it is the most remarkable thing. And there is something about hope, that the light is coming into the darkness. There's something amazing for me about the simplicity. There's something amazing to me about no matter how dark it gets in the season, even nature shows us, at least here in the northern hemisphere, that the light has come into it. And when we sing the old Christmas carols and we sing the songs, and it just reminds me of it. And we usually go to church with my parents back in Colorado. Usually do this candlelight service. And I mean, it gets me every single time. Now, a few years ago, I used to resist that. And now I'm learning, because I need the gift of tears, I need the gift of crying, to just allow it to come. Allow it to be there. Because here's the thing. Life is heavy. Life is difficult. And we can sometimes just bootstrap this whole thing, and it's not going to really help us all that much with those bootstraps. But if we allow the tears to come, they are such a reminder of what is most important in life. And also, in this season, for me, it is what is most hopeful in life. Because the tears for me on Christmas Eve is just being overwhelmed with the hope that we have in Christ. And that no matter where we find ourselves this Christmas Day, and I'm hoping that if you're listening to this, that you're finding joy, that you're finding peace, that you're finding deep connection with the people around you. But whether you are or you're not, what I hope is that you can somehow have that experience that moves you to tears with the hope of Christ. That in the midst of whatever we're experiencing, the breath of life, the light of eternity will break in today and show you that this isn't the end of the story. This is the beginning of eternity, and eternity in Christ. And again, if you can be moved to tears, that would be fantastic. Let the tears teach you what is most important.
Yeah. Mark, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's good. I think you're speaking to a lot of men out there, me included, and I had to learn how to show my emotions more, or be vulnerable enough, really, to connect with them. But that's how we connect with others. Yeah. When we can connect to ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have to share anything about crying because the break's coming, the music's winding up. So
how convenient.
How convenient. Yes, exactly. We'll be back here on New Life Live.
Hello, everybody. It's Becky Brown, and I'm coming to you with an urgent need. If you've heard the callers on the show recently, you've heard the struggles that so many people are experiencing. There are many people that are in difficult relationships, difficult places in their lives. I want you to help New Life continue to offer hope for people's lives. We had some generous friends of New Life that started a matching gift, and every gift will be doubled up to $475,000. But it's urgent. The matching window closes December 31st, so don't wait. Every moment matters in recovery, healing, and restoration. Make your gift today by going to newlife.com, click on Donate, or text the word MATCH to 28950. You can also call us, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Together, we will bring hope and help to so many more people. And I want to say thank you in advance.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back on this Christmas Day edition of New Life Live. I'm Brian Perez, here with licensed marriage and family therapists Chris Williams and Marc Cameron. Merry Christmas to all of you watching and listening right now. We were talking about crying at the beginning of the episode. And, okay, so I will share a little bit about me and crying. So with me, sometimes it'll be a song that I hear on the radio or something. It'll remind me of better times or whatever, and right away I'll just change the station or skip the song on the playlist or whatever, because for me, I'm thinking it's not so much sitting in church and maybe somebody around you sees that you're crying, because it's okay, you're at church and it's fine. And they might, if I'm sitting next to Chris and he's crying, then I can cry and we're all crying together and it's fine. But when you're by yourself and something just triggers and you just feel that emotion welling up, and it's not the easiest thing to do. You don't want the people in the car next to you looking over and seeing you wiping tears. And so what do you do then? What would you say?
You get tinted windows. No, just kidding. No, I mean, we've got to go against our social programming as men, because we are socialized not to show emotion, not to show tears. You know, we're made fun of. As boys, you know, after a certain age, typically if you cry, if you act hurt. And so when you get programmed like that, I mean, programming is conditioning, right? And, you know, our foundation, everything else gets built on top of that. And so, you know, if you go through 10 or 20 years of that in childhood, then when you become an adult, I mean, that's what you're used to. And so you got to learn. And then tears can be shut off, as you were saying, Chris. And I found that in myself, even when there were sad things. And there were even times in my life that I wanted to cry and I couldn't cry.
Yeah, couldn't access them,
Yeah. And so I've had to allow those moments, as you're both saying, you know, when they naturally come, when something, when you're watching something or something just kind of hits with you, right? Just to allow yourself just to feel and not pull out of it, not change the station, not think about something else, not make a joke or look away, and just experience that. Because, you know, as I said, we connect with others through emotional connection, and empathy is derived from how, you know, because we can connect to how we feel so we can understand how someone else feels. And so, but if we don't go there with ourselves, then we can't go there with others. We become uncomfortable, and they pick up on that, and they see that we're uncomfortable, and it prevents connection.
And I just find, too, for me, what really had to be the transition, and it's just, I mean, right now it's an obvious truth, but it was revolutionary for me in my emotional life as I was working on that, and still work on it today, is that our emotions are a muscle. And so when we think that showing sadness or hurt is a liability or weakness, the irony is it's the exact opposite. Because if my sad muscle gets strengthened, then my resiliency for sadness increases, and my ability to enter into it, be honest with it, and connect with others in it is actually a sign of tremendous strength. You know, so when people, you know, will say, you know, I don't get sad, I'm like, I'm so sorry. You should develop the muscle. Because you can't live life on earth for too long without experiencing some sense of loss. And that loss is going to be, and I know we all want to avoid it, but that loss is something that if we allow ourselves to enter into and build that muscle, there's two things that happen. The first thing that happens is we no longer fear loss as much as we do before. Meaning that we don't live our life to avoid loss, because if you live your life to avoid loss, you will also avoid life, ironically enough. The other aspect of it is the fear won't overwhelm us, but we'll move into it. As it says in one of the prophets that Jesus was a man familiar with many sorrows. I like to say, if Jesus was familiar with many sorrows, then we need to be familiar with a man who is familiar with many sorrows to help us move into that. We see that with Lazarus, Jesus cried, that Jesus was able to enter into mourning, his own included. And so if we look at this as our emotional life as muscles and learn to build those up, we build a more robust faith. We also build a more robust relational life as well.
Well, and that's the interesting thing. I mean, if you've ever been to Sunday school growing up, the shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus cried. But if you think about that situation, he was just about to raise Lazarus from the dead. If it were me, I would have been like, ladies, come on, hold on, just hang with me for a second. Just wait 30 seconds. Trust me, I promise you, it's going to be okay. But he didn't do that. He cried and he wept with them because he was so moved. He empathized with them. He saw how distraught and upset they were, and he felt distraught and he felt upset. And so he took a moment to connect with them. And then they wiped their tears away, and then he raised Lazarus from the dead, and then they were overjoyed.
Yes.
But he connected in that moment. And oftentimes, I think there's this misconception that resiliency is kind of this hardness about us, where it's like it doesn't bother us, it doesn't affect us, we just can get over it and we can move on. And that means you're mentally and emotionally strong. But, a hardness, rocks are hard, stones are hard, and when you throw them at the ground, right, they chip.
Yes.
Right. But resiliency is being able to kind of bounce back.
Yes.
Stress balls are resilient. You can squeeze them, you can mangle them, and then just bounce back again. And that's really what resiliency is. It's emotional bounce back ability. It's our ability to be able to feel and experience our emotions and then be able to recover. And when we can do that for ourselves, we can help other people recover too.
Absolutely. Well, and oftentimes, I'm working with a lot of guys who struggle with anger management over the years. I don't like the word because anger refuses to be managed. It only it only likes to be resolved. It doesn't like to be managed.
That's good.
So I believe in anger resolution way above anger management. But with that said, I mean, 9 times out of 10, and what I mean by that is 10 times out of 10, guys that are really, really struggling with anger and angry outbursts is their attempt to feel in control where they're out of control. Then when we go to the place where they're out of control, it's usually unresolved grief. It's sadness that they can't get into. And so it goes internally, the anger feels in control. The irony is externally, it's out of control. And then internally, sadness feels out of control, but externally, it's actually in control. And what I mean by that is that if we want to really, really get a handle on our emotional life, we've got to then learn how to, what our friend Milan Jurkovic said all the time, feel and deal. And Mark, this I didn't anticipate this, but it is for me going to be a very shameless plug for your book. If you're a guy like me who has struggled to access and build your emotional muscles.
You mean this one right here?
This one right there, understanding your attachment style. Then you have to learn it. If you didn't learn it in your home, like I didn't learn it in my home growing up, then somewhere along the lines you have to learn how to feel, how to deal, how to connect with people, and to understand what do you do in your life when you don't feel and deal, or you don't know how to connect. What are the patterns that you fall into that really hamper your ability to grow, your ability to connect, and engage in flourishing relationships? Understanding your attachment style is a fantastic way to start. Again, shameless plug from Chris Williams on Christmas Day. If you have not got yourself a Christmas present, this is the one, Understanding Your Attachment Style.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And so something that I do cover in the book, it is anger. Anger is a secondary emotion. And funny enough, for males, anger is usually the emotion that we're allowed to have socially, right?
Yeah.
That's acceptable because it's powerful, right? It makes us big. And anger is not bad in and of itself. It signals another emotion, but anger is a secondary emotion. Just like you're saying, there's hurt, there's sad, there's fear, or there's shame underneath it. And until we know the underlying emotion, right? Every emotion has a corresponding need. Just like you said, it's not ready to manage it, it's to resolve it, right? If I feel unheard, I need to be heard. When I'm heard, that resolves feeling unheard. If I feel misunderstood, I need to be understood. That resolves feeling misunderstood. But we can't resolve anger until we understand the underlying emotion.
Yes.
But that takes vulnerability to get there. And I mean, emotions are just emotions. We've kind of put them into these categories of positive emotions and negative emotions just to kind of understand the categories. But in doing so, we tend to see negative emotions as, oh, those are bad. We don't want to have those. Like, get rid of those. But emotions are just emotions. And we're designed by God just to experience the full spectrum of them. You can't know how good is, right? Until you know, to some degree, how bad feels, right? And how sad feels, because that helps you know, like, how good then this is. And so we need to be able to understand this, and understanding our attachment style, understanding how we've learned to recognize our emotions and put language to them, and to be able to connect the emotions to emotional needs. And emotional intelligence really is seeing how emotions are acted out in behavior. We verbalize or we dramatize. We talk our emotions out or we act them out. And when emotional intelligence is understanding how someone's acting or reacting and what's going on the inside and what it is that they need, and learning that about ourselves. And when we can do that, we can have, we can learn impulse control. We can learn emotion regulation. We can learn empathy. We can learn how to connect with others. But this is all learned. It's all, attachment is programming, and we get programmed for 2 decades of our lives.
Yeah.
And so if we didn't learn a secure attachment, because there's only one secure attachment style, the rest are insecure. If we didn't learn a secure attachment style in childhood, we have to earn it in adulthood. We've got to go and do some hard work. But we got to understand where we fall in the spectrum of attachment. And then lean into the growth, which is difficult.
Well, and I think a part of that too, Mark, is that I love how you say, if we didn't learn it, we got to earn it. And even those who learned better attachment styles and a little bit more secure attachment styles, I also see that we have to cultivate that over a lifetime. We have to keep growing and understanding and making it more and more our own. As 50, my body doesn't respond the same way it did at 30. But so my exercise routine, when I have it, looks very different than when I was 30. But my body will go into atrophy. And so similar to our relational patterns, our relational emotional life, we don't want it to go into atrophy. We want to keep it sharp and keep it moving forward. And again, when I was reading back through your book, I just, again, reminded myself of like how much I've been working on being a pleaser into moving into secure, but still have areas of my life that I need to keep improving upon, keep growing in.
Yeah, growth is a lifelong project that we got to go through. I mean, it's like sanctification. Sanctification is a process. It's not an event. Yes, we confess our sins and we're washed, white as snow. But that only takes a second before we have that thought or we do that thing, right? And then we're separated from God again, right? And so Jesus said, if you love me, you obey my commands. And so it's not about earning grace, because grace is freely given. It's a free gift by God. But then as we love him and we act like him and we become more like him. And so sanctification is a process, and so is emotional maturity. You can't have spiritual maturity without emotional security, emotional maturity. Those two things go together because God has designed us to be in his image. If you read scripture, you'll see God experiences these difficult emotions. He experiences anger. He says, I'm a jealous God. Yeah. He experiences sadness and grief. And so we're made in his image.
Yes.
So we are designed to experience these things. And so if God experiences them, they're not bad.
Yes.
They're not negative. They're not things to be got rid of. They're things to understand and learn how to manage so that we can be like him, we can be in his image.
Oh, that's so good. As I explore Scripture and the emotion and emotional life of Scripture, meaning the emotional life of God and his image bearers, I see over and over that most emotional experiences are given full permission, except for two. There's two that come with unbelievable amounts of warnings and boundaries: fear and anger. And it's interesting that those are the very two that will kind of mess up our life, that will make really, really poor and sometimes damaging decisions, or just keep us in places of misery more than anything else. And I would love for us to explore more about what is the need behind fear and anger. How do we build a better relationship to fear and anger, as we're going to experience it in life, but we also need resolution for it in life. And so, our work sees it every single day.
We can talk about that when we come back here on this Christmas Day edition of New Life Live.
My husband addicted to pornography for the majority of our marriage. I was very isolated and didn't really know which way to turn.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Intensive will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
I went to the Restore conference, which seemed to be the missing puzzle piece where I was able to find my voice.
When two people want to do their part, we can be restored. But if they don't, we are not stuck because someone else made a decision. God lets us weigh in on how we want to walk out our life.
The Restore Intensive is coming to Dallas, Texas, March 6th to the 8th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Enter the code NLL for a discount.
I'm navigating my world now. It feels so wonderful.
I've had a great experience at Restore.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL. For over 35 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addiction, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
I found a counselor through New Life Ministries, and it's just been outstanding.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first steps toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door for a better tomorrow.
To get someone that's competent, that's good at what they do, it's been like day and night compared to what I've had before.
Call 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We want to say thank you to everyone who has contributed toward the work we did at New Life Ministries in 2025. Your gift has allowed New Life to be a guiding hand all year, helping people find freedom, hope, and Christ-centered restoration. In fact, many families are celebrating together today, intact, because someone got help from New Life and it changed everything. Please help us continue reaching people by making a year-end gift today, and it'll be doubled due to a matching gift. You can give online at newlife.com/match or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or text the word match to 28950. Brian Perez here on this Christmas Day edition of New Life Live, in the studio with licensed marriage and family therapists Marc Cameron and Chris Williams. We're talking about emotions. We were talking about crying and sadness, and fear and anger are a couple of emotions that, like you said, Chris, are the two that we're cautioned against in Scripture.
Yeah, there's so much. We go back to anger, and here's a crazy thing. Like we see in Scripture, I believe it's in Ephesians. It's like, don't let anger reign by giving the devil a foothold. I was like, whoa. That's pretty strong language around that. We even see in Proverbs that the person that is prone to anger is referred to as the sluggard. And we see how many passages in Proverbs is talking very, very critically, to be honest, about the sluggard. And yet God gets angry, as you mentioned, Mark. And here's what I found. Anger is a God-given response to a real or perceived injustice. There are certain things in the world we should be angry at. You know, as I like to say that if we do a deeper dive, and we don't have to do that deep of a dive, but we do a deeper dive into the very specifics of how parents are killed, and then they're captured, and then they're groomed into becoming war machines, as we see in Northern Africa. If we're not angry about that, it says that there's something wrong with us. That is as God says in the Old Testament, you have devised ways of evil I hadn't even thought of, like that exceed my imagination. And so that deserves and needs an angry response. But there's so much of our life that, as you said, that is just a secondary emotion, or that we let anger reign, and it then takes over and, quite honestly, can wreck our lives.
Well, when we get angry, think about what happens inside of our body. Our body releases adrenaline, which is like liquid energy for us, getting us ready to move, and it releases cortisol, which is a stress-reducing hormone. So anger, it produces a physical response, getting us ready to take action. Now, anger is not bad in itself. Anger is designed so that we can protect ourselves or protect others, to spur us to an action. Now, where anger, so that's where it's constructive. Where it gets to be destructive is when we use that energy, that action, to hurt ourselves or hurt others. Yeah. So you're 100% right. When we see injustices, we should be, angry inside, but that anger is designed to get us to say, like, let me start a movement. Let me raise awareness for this. I'm going to go and I want to be there, and I want to help out, and I want to rescue. And so that's what anger is supposed to be used for. And so we shouldn't get rid of anger, necessarily completely, in the sense of stopping ourselves from acting, because we need to protect ourselves. If I come home and someone's tied my wife and kids, I got to rescue them. I got to go into superhero mode, right? I got to get angry to do that. But the Bible says be slow to speak and slow to get angry. It says don't let the sun go down on your anger. So don't let it continue and go on and on and on. But it doesn't say that it's wrong. I mean, even when Jesus got angry and he overturned the tables, well, he sat there and he made a whip.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. He took time. His anger built. Right. And he wasn't out of control. By the way, he knew exactly what he was going to do, but he needed to get himself to a physical state that people backed off from him in that moment. Yeah. That people saw that this is wrong and that you need to move away. Yeah. Right. But it was to protect the sanctity of the temple. Yes. Right. Absolutely. Because it was being, in his words, turned into a den of thieves and robbers. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so, we look at Jesus in the wisdom, anger is there to tell us something, but we're typically not listening. So when, slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to speak, if we are quick to listen to our internal world, here's what I can only imagine. I know it's a little interpretation or liberty on my part, but when Jesus looks at the merchants, what they're doing is they're selling access to God. Now, if someone told me, hey, my son just went off to science camp this morning up in the mountains. So if they come home and say, hey, son, for you to see your father again, you're going to need to pay us this amount of money. Fellas, hell hath no fury. Like, you're not charging my son money to come see me. And so Jesus sees the injustice, sees the evil in people's heart, and he does something about it. Now, the doing something about it, again, I think takes a tremendous amount of wisdom. That's where I think that, like, the Proverbs is really saying that you're going to have these experiences, let's couch them in wisdom. Yeah, we can't get rid of fear and anger from our lives, so we need to learn how to recognize them and how to manage them appropriately, because if you try and get rid of them, right, you're getting rid of humanness.
Yes. Well, and you're getting rid of clear information. The fear is a God-given response to a threat. What is the threat? Too many times it's something I'm carrying on the inside that I haven't resolved. And so here's my plug. When you resolve so much of your own internal issues, i.e. healing, man, you become so much more emotionally wise.
We'll be back on New Life Live.
We've been married 33 years. We attended the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop. Even though we've read books or attended a few other marriage weekends, this was certainly different and a lot more intensive than initially that we thought.
When you come to Intimacy and Marriage, you're going to be immersed into a 3-day process.
Was not really sure exactly what to expect, but the idea of learning to really understand intimacy was intriguing. We had been in the same patterns of struggle over and over again.
If you've thought, I don't think we can ever change, we're just in this rut and we can't get out, the Intimacy and Marriage Workshop can help you get out of the rut.
The Intimacy and Marriage Weekend is February 13th to the 15th in Orange County, California. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the code NLL for a discount. 1-800-639-5433.
I would highly recommend it.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We hope you got what you wanted for Christmas, but if not, come to newlife.com. It's like unwrapping a gift to yourself. You'll find videos, articles, podcasts, and more, all designed to meet you where you are and help guide you toward growth and healing. You can get a jump start on 2026 at newlife.com. I'm Brian Perez. Merry Christmas to you and your family from our family. In the studio with me, licensed marriage and family therapists Marc Cameron and Chris Williams. And there are several ways that you can ask a question of the team here at New Life. Our favorite way is when you call in to the studio when we're here and taking your questions. But you can also submit your questions online, either through email or voicemail. Here's one of those emails that was sent in. By the way, to submit your question, go to newlife.com/radio, and that shows you how to get your questions to us. But Sarah listens on newlife.com, and she asks, what are one or two ways to start trusting God when trusting anyone is very difficult? Chris, what would you say to Sarah?
Oh, that's a big question. Trust is a two-way street. In working with people who've been through betrayal trauma, so the betrayer needs to work on becoming trustworthy. But oftentimes what's overlooked is what Sarah is asking. If your trust muscle is broken, then you need to learn how to trust. But here's the trick. Our fear, as we were talking about before, fear and pain want protection, and the first thing to go is trust. Don't trust anything, don't trust anyone. But that also keeps us away from the healing and the life and the vitality that God is calling us into at the same time. And so what we need to start doing is start understanding what is trustworthy and then building our trust on that which is trustworthy. And so the first thing I think is actually backing that up a step further and knowing what was untrustworthy. So pain wants to globalize, pain and fear, I should say, want to globalize everything. Nobody is healthy. Nobody is safe. The world is dangerous. And it gets that sort of belief gets into our bones. And so we must have to start making small shifts to change our mind and our heart into saying, oh, wait a second. That's not all of life. There are things in life, and there are people who are trustworthy. And so when we start looking for it and focusing on it, and then allowing ourselves to say yes to that yes, as we're still saying no to no's, then it helps us grow in that. Getting into the resources that we have here on New Life, a couple of books. The one is a Cloud book. Henry Cloud wrote the book Trust. I think is really, really helpful. I also think that the book, the Townsend and Cloud book, Safe People, it has been really helpful in my own life because it helps us identify the specifics of what is safe or what is trustworthy and what is not.
Yeah, I mean, this is the challenge, what you're saying. How do, because in order to trust, you have to learn to trust. But if I don't trust, then I can't trust.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
And so it's this catch-22. But I'm sure if we had Sarah on the phone here, I mean, she intimated it here, like, how can I trust God when it's hard to trust anyone? Well, there's a story behind that.
Yes.
Right, with a broken trust. And it could have been adaptive at one point. It likely was adaptive at that point. And maybe either one big event or maybe many events if you have a caregiver who should have been trustworthy and they weren't trustworthy, right? And so we build this view of the world, that people aren't safe. People aren't trustworthy, and I got to protect myself, and that means being skeptical. And so at one point that was adaptive because there weren't other options available. But when we get into adulthood and we're bigger and we're stronger and we become more capable, more responsible for outcomes in relationships, but it's not global, like you said. There are people who can be trusted, and so what we've got to do is we've got to recognize that story created a trigger point, and that's what we call a trigger. A trigger is an association in the present to the past, and of course we're going to struggle to trust God if we can't trust other people. We are God's hands and feet in this world. God could do anything he wants to do, but he uses us as his hands and feet, right, to go throughout the world. And so it's as we learn how to make sense of our stories, right, in a safe place. And yes, learning to trust means you are going to have to take some risk.
Yes. Yep.
But they can be calculated risks.
Yep.
We can learn to look at, okay, who are trustworthy people? Okay, generally therapists are trustworthy people. Okay, so can I get a recommendation from other people of a trustworthy therapist and go to that person and start to share a little bit? And as I start to build that experience, then I learn how to trust. And then I can take different, try other, smaller experiments and other things of learning to trust someone else. I mean, it's a silly thing, but, maybe you learn not to trust being in the car with someone, so I got to be driving, right?
Yes,
and so then you learn, okay, can I be in the car that someone else is driving who I know, who I trust in another area? And so we build trust this way, and then we learn to, these new experiences start to override the old experiences, and those triggers reduce. But we do have to make sense of this story. We've got to build a coherent narrative. You talked about my book earlier on, just to bring it back to that. We've got to build a coherent narrative. We've got to make sense of our childhood stories so that we can understand these triggers and learn to overcome them. And that's how we build trust. It's a process.
And I really think that's the hard work of being able to then identify. And so I use another acronym. I used one a while ago about OAR, but this one is AID. I need my aid, my emotional aid or my life aid, and that is awareness, identification, and disclosure. So trust is a similar way. I need to be able to be aware of what is trust and untrustworthy. And those triggers are hard because when the triggers kick in, it says everything is untrustworthy. But the truth of the matter is nothing is really absolute. Everything's on a spectrum. No person on planet Earth is going to be fully trustworthy. And most likely, no one is going to be fully untrustworthy. So we have to build that muscle to be aware of what is and what's not. And also call it out, identify it. oh, that person doesn't follow through on these things. On those things, that person tends to be untrustworthy. Yep, call it out. And then being able to disclose it, meaning tell other people. And I find that usually when we start with ourselves, what inside of me is trustworthy and what inside of me is untrustworthy. And part of that isn't to say to shame ourselves at all. It's just to have this observational awareness that I have these growth areas. But again, that goes back to being able to identify it. One of the things that I made a horrible mistake as a pleaser is that as a pleaser, if I make other people feel good about themselves and feel good about me, that makes me trustworthy. But there was so many times in my desire to make sure other people felt good about me, I said yes. And my yes wasn't a yes. My yes was a no. And I couldn't follow through with managing everyone else's emotions or everyone else's decisions, nor my own. And definitely not their opinions, than my own, though I tried. The irony in that attempt to be safe as a pleaser was actually creating untrustworthiness and a lack of safety. And so, again, this weird thing that happens inside of us, I have to now be aware of that. I have to identify that, and then I have to find a place to disclose that. And this, I don't hate to say it, I love to say it. It comes back to the wisdom of why it's so important to understand our attachment styles.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because when we say yes and we don't tell people really what's on our heart, we are dishonest. You can't be trustworthy if you are being dishonest at the same time. And so we all have blind spots in our lives, and we need other people. We need community around us. I mean, it's a blind spot because we can't see it. That's the definition of it. So we need people on the outside of us. You know, if I got something in my teeth, I need someone to tell me that. But how you know someone's safe is somebody who can receive feedback, somebody who can admit their flaws, and somebody who can take accountability. Because you're not going to find that perfect person, like you said.
Yeah.
That you know, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to be dishonest in ways, you know, because it hides shame or it hides fear.
Yes.
We're going to say yes, and it's dishonest, but it's not dishonest in a manipulative way. It's a dishonestness because we feel shame, so we want to hide that part of us.
Yeah, that's right.
But but you can't build trust through dishonesty. And so if you are in a relationship with somebody who can admit things, who can receive feedback and is accountable, you can know that person can be trustworthy, right? Even though they make mistakes.
Well, and that's the thing. Trustworthiness is not primarily about getting anything right. It's about getting things honest. You know, I think about Proverbs 16, verse 2. It says, all a person's ways seem pure to them. Isn't that true? Like, I think I'm a good guy.
Of course,
I think my ways are really good. But it says this, but motives are weighed by the Lord. And wow, really, you know, I think I need a place to be like, hey, your ways seem good to you, Chris. They seem pure. But listen, we got to understand a few layers underneath the surface of what's really going on. And because, you know, what's going on in the heart, in the motivational centers, because God is really weighing that and seeing what is happening there.
I remember you were talking about motives here on New Life Live just a few weeks ago. I still remember that conversation. It was one of our opening segments. We'll be back on New Life Live.
I went to Every Man's Battle in 2012. My sexual integrity was not what it should have been. I sought out affairs, whether physical or emotional. Until I came to Every Man's Battle, I didn't understand that would never fill that void.
Every day, men struggle with sexual integrity. Impure thoughts, strip clubs, affairs, pornography.
The shame and guilt was overwhelming.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Intensive.
You will discover what the true root of your pain is, and you will discover how to overcome.
You don't have to struggle any longer. Get help in Orange County, California, January 23rd through the 25th. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE to register or to find out more. 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Enter the code NLL for a discount.
Every Man's Battle saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL. Do Do you need help for life's hard situations?
My husband recently said he wanted a divorce.
I'm confused on what I should do.
I have an eating disorder.
New Life Live answers your questions on relationships, grief, addiction, trauma, anxiety, and much more, all from a biblical perspective with our panel of professional counselors and psychologists.
I learn a lot from your program.
You help so many people.
I appreciate your ministry.
Whether you listen or watch, there are so many ways to connect with us to ask our panel of counselors a question. Call us Monday through Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific at 1-800-229-3000 to ask your question on New Life Live. Or go to newlife.com/radio for other ways to get your question answered.
I'm trying to find help.
I just want to know how to set boundaries.
If it's a sin, what am I supposed to do?
Need a therapist or a coach, a resource, or an intensive? Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Let's go to the phones. Here is Ginger, who watches us on YouTube in Anchorage, Alaska. Welcome to New Life Live.
You better put your hat back on. She's watching.
I should, huh? Yes, but now I'm wearing the headphones. Let me see if I can do this. Well, go ahead, Ginger. What's your question for us today?
So it's hard to put this into words without to really explain what I'm getting at. But my question is, I'm in a different church. It's a denomination I wasn't in for a couple of years. So I don't know if it's a denomination thing. I grew up in the Methodist church. So anyway, this is more of a Pentecostal. But there was 2 instances where I got a little caught off guard, and it has to do with women and men in the church, like if you're married. So like in a Sunday school class, if you break off into small groups to discuss like a question, the leader had said, he made sure to say, don't be in a group with a member of the opposite sex if you're married. And it threw me off, and it almost made me laugh out loud. Because I was like, what do you think's going to happen? We're in a Sunday school room with other people. And then they do altar calls where you can come up and ask for prayers at the front of the church. And you then they have like a prayer team standing up there, and then you can pray with someone. And so a female had went up, and all the other prayers had someone with them, and so there was just a man left. And so the woman went to the man, and then I guess he was kind of like, no, I can't pray with you. You have to wait for this lady to get done. And so then, so since it was kind of bothering me, I did contact the pastor. And then he emailed and just said, well, I don't think what they did was wrong. It was like an older man, and like the woman was younger. Like he was like 70 and she maybe was 40. But he said, well, it can cause an unwanted attraction for even the best Christian. And I couldn't really explain my feelings, but I told him like about the Sunday school class, how that caught me off guard.
Yeah.
In all my other years in other churches, I never experienced people being afraid. It's almost like an extreme fear, like something's going to happen, like someone's going to have an affair within the church, and it just seems kind of overboard to me. But I wanted to know if I was, if I was seeing it wrong. And then my other question would be, how do I kind of deal with this difference of opinion without, there's really not another church around here. We're in a kind of a rural area that I would go to. So how do I not let this thing that bothers me really throw me off? And I don't want to leave the church or something, but it bothers me.
Well, Ginger, I think you have something, again, we were talking a lot about wisdom today, and I think there's something wise inside of you, and that wisdom says that, listen, we can be man and woman, we can be opposite gender and be safe for each other, and be okay, not have an affair, and also, this is, my take on doing, especially working with, men who struggle with unhealthy, not just attraction, but sexual behavior towards other women. I always say this: the attraction's not the problem. You're a human being. There's beautiful people on planet Earth. Attraction is going to be there. We can't eliminate it. However, what you do with the attraction absolutely matters. So I say, hey, man, if you happen to see a pretty woman, always use the period at the end of the sentence, meaning like, oh, she's attractive, period. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean she doesn't belong to me. I don't belong to her. It doesn't mean anything else. It doesn't even really point to a value of that, but that person is more valuable because they tend to carry a more physical attraction at this point in their life. What it just means is it's a recognition of it. And what I think you're recognizing is that if there's somebody that's going to have an affair, that's going to cross those boundaries, the behavior isn't going to stop it. The boundary isn't going to stop it necessarily. That's going to be something that's deep in their heart. And that they have unresolved, or they're not getting honest with, or not getting, not working through. So I agree with that 100%. And I also think that the church is doing their level best to create relational boundaries to protect people. It's a both and, not an either or. Now, I'm not saying they're not going overboard. I'm not saying that they aren't going extreme on it. But if you look at it from this perspective, and I'm kind of hoping that to answer the second question here, and that is, hey, I might not agree with how they're doing this, but I do agree that it's good and proper to set up some boundaries and some help to protect people from acting out with the opposite sex in a way that would be unhealthy for them and the church and the people around them. And so if you kind of look at it from their perspective, I get the heart behind it, though I don't agree necessarily with how they're doing it. I can be a part of this community and still, again, respect what they're going for, but not necessarily how they're doing it.
Yeah, there's no perfect church out there.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be perfect for, even if you're really happy with your church, not everybody's going to see it the same way as you. I don't think there's a more right and a more wrong behind this, Ginger. I totally get where you're coming from. I really do. Obviously, Chris and I and all other male therapists out there, we're in a room alone at times with females, but we are trained, and we've built trust, and we are licensed, and we are regulated. And so there's a difference between somebody who has been, assessed and screened, and somebody in in a Sunday school room. So I agree with you. Sometimes churches have to have boundaries, and so maybe in the Sunday school room that makes sense because you're pairing up, but we don't really know that person intimately and what their thoughts are. But if we have someone at the front of the church, okay, they've been assessed, and so maybe in that situation it can be different. But I understand sometimes you just got to have a general rule about it. But here's what I would have you think about. We were talking a lot in the show about self-awareness and about emotions. And so you can use this to grow yourself. You can start to look inside and say, what do I feel about this? If I look at a list of emotions, why is this so bothersome for me? Is it because, it just feels rigid to me? Oh, and where in my life was there rigidity? And what is that triggering inside of me? And so I think if you do that, you can grow out of this because you can start to gain some self-awareness and figure out, why is that so bothersome? And that may lead you to a greater understanding of yourself, which, again, you might not know, if you resolve and heal from that wound, whatever that is, it doesn't mean that you will continue, with what they're doing, but you may have more understanding for it.
And I think that's really good, Mark, because most of life is the messy middle, and we have to learn how to live within the messy middle. Now, that's not to say that we don't set boundaries and call out evil for where it is. But as most of us live in the paradox of the wonderful, as we're created in God's image, and the terrible, as we're also deeply embedded with sin, we kind of figure it out in the middle of all of that. But I love the self-awareness. As I grow in that, I'm able to have the clarity to call out things that are wrong and things that are right. Most importantly, inside of myself, the plank that's inside of my eye before anyone else, but also how to live within the middle of it all.
Ginger, thanks for calling us today from Anchorage, Alaska.
And Merry Christmas.
Yes,
Merry Christmas.
I think it feels like Christmas every day in Anchorage, Alaska because of the weather. But thanks for calling in. We're going to send you a copy of Dr. Henry Cloud's new devotional called To Know Him. God bless you guys. Have a very Merry Christmas. We will talk to you tomorrow here on New Life Live.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.